And to talk more about what should we make of the Prime Minister's address and the key announcements that he made at the Red Fort yesterday during his Independence Day address, I'm joined by Dr. Amit Kapoor. He's a senior economist. Thank you, Dr. Kapoor, for being on the show. What was the central message that the Prime Minister was trying to convey through the various announcements that he made yesterday, be it on semiconductors, be on increasing nuclear energy capacity or GST reforms, etc.?
So I think there's a very implicit understanding that has been drawn, given the kind of conditions that have developed in the world in the last few weeks. And what the Honorable Prime Minister has said is that, one, if you really want to talk about competitiveness of India, then competitiveness of India has to be driven on its own strengths. And when we say it has to be driven by its own strengths, there's a very far deep meaning to it in terms of saying wherever we have our capacity and capability, we should exploit it. And in terms of that, I think the biggest point that he made was demographics. Because when you talk about competitiveness, it is about land, labor, and capital. And he says that if India wants to push forward, then it has to be the demographic dividend that has to be utilized to the fullest. And for that, he has made announcements. So there were some kind of initiatives. And of course, we have been talking about it. It was more about the Rozgar Yojana, which is a very, very powerful mechanism to making sure that the job creation happens. The second thing that comes out very strongly is that you have to have self-reliance in certain key sectors. So there are those very critical sectors wherein the government has said that we should look at, or where the Honorable Prime Minister has said we should look at our self-reliance. So that is when you talk about semiconductors. The next set of competitive advantages or the issues that are going to emerge across economies is going to be that who controls technologies. So we cannot have over-reliance on certain set of technologies from the outside world. So yes, semiconductors becomes very important. Defense is another thing that he really did talk about and emphasize about. And given the kind of conditions that we have seen in the last 6 months, we have had a war with Pakistan. And it was not a minor skirmish. It effectively became a full-blown 4-day catastrophic situation. So, but then I think managed very well. But it does tell us that we need to protect ourselves from an enemy which is very, very caustic. So that also has an economic thing. And the third factor, and you do say that in your report as well, that economic development cannot just be looked in isolation. It has to be looked at from the perspective of social progress as well. So what does social progress mean? That you have to talk about education, investment in areas thereof. And he's also talked about the future generation of reforms. And everybody across the board, any economist that you were talking to or any person in the country, they were saying that we need to have a rationalization of the GST. And he's already announced that the rationalization of GST is going to happen. So there are just going to be 2 slabs from a very complicated, complex structure. You're moving to a 2-tier approach that is going to happen. And that is really going to make things a lot easier. So what you're doing is that you're effectively unburdening the enterprises. You're unburdening, or what you call as the regulatory cholesterol is effectively getting reduced by these kind of initiatives. So and I think you did not allude to the fact, but what the Honorable Prime Minister said, our next generation of things has to be about quality, 0 defects. So cost competitiveness and quality is also something that he said, and which I feel is a very, very important thing. The last time when a country invoked something like this, it was Japan, which said we need to talk about quality and cost. And that's about 50 years back. And look what Japan was able to do. If we are able to even do, say, 20 or 30% of what Japan was able to do, we are going to be achieving wonders over a period of time.
True. And, I want to pick up that point of self-reliance where he says that he made a dramatic announcement yesterday in his speech where he says that the way we made vaccines during COVID, UPI for digital payments, we should build our own jet engines. We don't produce jet engines today. We're trying to do Tejas and all, but then again, with the French help, he asked our scientists and youth to take it up as a direct challenge. And he cited how in Op Sindoor, you used indigenous technologies to gain some kind of dominance over your enemy. But if you want to be, if you want to be a developed nation by 2047, you really need to have self-reliance, be it in the economic sphere, be it in energy independence or defense technologies and equipment.
Also, I think so. And there is a prime example that India has also done it earlier. It's not something that we cannot do. So what he's saying is that we need to take one step forward. We need to become more reliant or self-reliant in agriculture, improve our productivity. He, in fact, did say that. The second thing is in terms of, say, improving reliance in certain sectors, which are core sectors for an economy. Like you cannot outsource defense to the greatest possible extent. So we need to become self-reliant. And when you say doing this, this also has a huge effect from an economic development perspective. Because if you're able to create those ecosystems, in terms of saying that if I'm able to create an ecosystem for defense, that means look at the number of enterprises which will happen. There could be large enterprises, but there would be small, allied, medium, and small enterprises that will emerge, which will create that cluster of defense, and then the number of jobs that get created. So I always say that, like there is that direct, indirect, and induced impact of these actions. This is going to be far bigger than what we are even anticipating now. So you have to create that perspective. So he's saying various sectors. So when he also said Indian youth should create their own platforms, like say social media platforms. If we are able to do that, if we are able to create our own softwares, why not? It is time that we do it, because that has been one of the things which India has been missing. And that's a visionary statement. I think it had to come from somebody like the Prime Minister to tell the people that, we have to go into that direction. It inspires the people to really take those steps. And he's also effectively signaling that you need to reduce the regulatory cholesterol. I think it's a given thing. What we are seeing now is going to be a very watershed moment in India. And as I anticipated, when I say watershed in terms of say how the next generation of reforms is going to be happening, we've had some tremendous reforms since 2014, but I think this is time when we can really go back to the drawing board. And this is exactly what the Honorable Prime Minister is doing, and saying that let's open up, let's become more reliant. Let the world see what the power of India is and how the world can actually, or how we can create dependence of the world on us, rather than we becoming dependent on the world. And that's what he said on energy as well. We need to be energy independent. We need to protect ourselves. So when he's saying that let's go to green energy, that means we are going to have reliance on energy. We will require less oil over a period of time, and that's a very positive step.
True, very true. Dr. Kapoor, now that's great vision to have, but now the challenge really is to implement it and see that it gets effectively implemented. That's all the time I have for. Thank you very much, Dr. Kapoor, for joining us on the show. Thank you.